moved to Rehoboth about 2.5 years ago, and we didn't know anybody. Then we saw this church.
I started coming here in 1985 when I moved to Rehoboth, and I truly found a home.
Kind of this like cheerful white building off on this little hill.
I was actually baptized in this church. I have my certificate to prove it. July 13th, 1937.
We moved to Rehoboth, and we really felt that to be part of the community, we needed to find a church that was closer to where we were.
My family came here every Sunday with my brothers and sister and my grandparents.
My mom, Ann Sharp, she wanted to find a family church for us to go to way back when I was about 6 or 7 years old.
It was as if they knew we were coming. It just felt like, it was really special. And then, of course, we learned that it's always like that.
And what we came to realize very quickly was that our neighbors were members of the church, and our friends that we had made in the community were part of the church.
I didn't come to this church when I was young. I started coming in my teenage years with all my friends who were here.
The music was very touching to me. It still is. I love, Nathan and what he brings to the table today in his music ministry.
In January of 2016, after some dissatisfaction and unhappiness, I was truly ready to give up on church altogether. Steve Ellis, who had been coming here, encouraged us. He said, you really have to come out to Rehoboth. There's a really good minister out there. You have to listen. She's great. And so we said, okay, and a bunch of us, who happen to all be from the same church, came one Sunday in the beginning of January.
All at once.
All at once, and we sat all together. Someone approached us, I cannot remember who now, and asked us if we were a search committee. And we sort of giggled and said, no, we're not a search committee in that sense. We're looking for a church.
We're searching for a church.
And once everybody discovered that was
then it was a welcome. We got greetings, and it was just, welcome to the family.
The reason we like to come to this church is because of the many opportunities that are available to become active participants in the church as opposed to just coming and sitting in the pew on Sunday.
I had a really good first impression, and I was struck with the beauty of the sanctuary.
My first memory to speak about is about the stained glass window with the pilgrims on the boat.
The stained glass windows, the rich history with the pilgrims, and I just love those stained glass windows. I never get tired of them, looking at what could have been the Mayflower, and they're looking at the Bible.
My favorite time at RCC is definitely the mission trips.
The missions committee, we did a lot of trips with the youth group, which I love the youth here. There's so many kids, and that's what drew me too.
I was fortunate enough to be able to be a part of the second mission trip to New Orleans that took place in January of 2007. So it would have been a year and a half after Hurricane Katrina hit. And we went to New Orleans to help rebuild.
Just the things that they did, they supported Rehoboth, they supported the world.
So I made this picture collage of some of the awesome trips we took to Philadelphia, New York, Boston, Montreal.
I could speak forever about the impact that mission trip had on me. It continues to change me when I reflect on it, when I talk to people.
This was on one of our trips, I believe Montreal. We would write little notes to each other.
Just lots of helping people.
Church has a wonderful church bazaar.
At least 50 to 60 members of our congregation are involved in the bazaar in one way or another. They either bake for the bake sale, do something for our craft rooms, offer something for the silent auction, they volunteer, and we get to meet everyone.
It's really a great time for us to come together and to break bread and to celebrate and be thankful and to really enjoy each other's company in a wonderful church and fellowship. And I think that being part of that has been absolutely wonderful. I like to cook, And along with my neighbor and a number of other friends, we've really gotten into a great rhythm of making a wonderful meal and having a great time of it, a wonderful day of fellowship in the kitchen as well as in the dining hall. So,
my best memories are with Miss Wolf. And I have to say, Miss Wolf was such a wonderful minister. And even as a child, I remember her sermons and what she had to say. And Miss Wolf started the youth fellowship. I can remember going to across her street, and there was a big hill, and we all went sledding there, the youth fellowship, and even younger kids. She always welcomed everyone, and we had a day of sledding, and then she'd invite us over for cocoa.
I thought Bill Hamilton gave a great sermon.
He was so gracious and welcoming.
I was touched with the fact that he used humor and there was laughter in the congregation, and it really touched me in a way that I'm like, wow, like you can worship God and have humor and laugh. I just wasn't used to that, and I liked it. She really made an impression on me, a woman of faith and a good example. And two things that stand out when I think of her is that she would say, "This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." And I think it's from one of the Psalms. And today, Pastor Sarah says that often, I think, as well. But that's where I first learned it, and so it kind of helped me to like memorize it, if you will, when Betty Ann would say it. And I always felt something stir in me when she would say that.
I was searching for a new church, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And our friends Russ and Jane Maynard, who are coming here already, said, "Why don't you come? It's a really nice church." And I said, well, I was undecided because of the diagnosis. And Scott Spencer, who really helped me through my breast cancer, said, "Oh, don't worry about it." He was just so caring and loving, quiet man, not too many words, just, you could tell he was like a man of God.
When I came to Rehoboth, I was a recent widower, a single parent with a 4.5-year-old daughter, Anique. And I remember that you, as a community, treated both of us with love and support and caring and kindness, and we've never forgotten that. And I think as we look over 300 years of history, there are many, many people that have been touched by the caring, generous, kind community and spirit at the Rehoboth Church.
I got transformed by Sarah, truly.
When I started in Rehoboth in 2011, one of the things that really resonated with me was just how important community is. The more I learned about the church and about its history, I realized that that is really part of the foundation of who we are.
You know, her energy is what drew us in, but then it was her dedication, her commitment to this, her just ceaseless, absolutely boundless enthusiasm for not only, you know, the church, but also the people in it, and just getting people to gather.
I am so grateful to be part of this church and to be part of this chapter that we are writing in the church's story. This church is very much a huge part of my story, but I feel like I get to be part of its story as well, and that feels like an honor and a privilege.
As the church observes its 300th anniversary, no celebration would be complete without mentioning the Newman Congregational Church in Rumford, Rhode Island, considered the, quote, mother church of congregational churches in Attleboro, Barrington, Pawtucket, and Rehoboth.
Our church started 300 years ago when members of our sister church, the Newman Congregational Church in what is now Rumford, Rhode Island, but was at the time Rehoboth, were settling further east, and they were not able to easily get to and attend the church. And so that is how our church came to be.
The Newman Church was named for the Reverend Samuel Newman, who came to Weymouth, Massachusetts from England in 1636. However, he competed with three other pastors for the one pulpit position there, and so he left to look for another place to settle. After traveling about 55 miles by horse and wagon, he and his followers reached an area which the Wampanoag Indians called Seekonk, spelled S-E-A-C-U-N-K, which was described as wide and fertile between the Seekonk and Palmer rivers. And so it is written that Reverend Newman said, "It shall be called Rehoboth, for the Lord hath made room for us," referring to the biblical verse from the book of Genesis. The first meeting house in present-day Rehoboth was built on Lake Street in 1759 and named the Palmers River Meeting House. The Yellow Meeting House, as it was known, was built in what is now known as the Village Cemetery on Bay State Road. The site included a stable, a cemetery, and a powder house. The Yellow Meeting House served for 66 years when it was taken down and the present building where we are today was erected.
It came out of a desire to be in community with one another, and that has continued to shape us and drive us and help us tell our story for the last 300 years.
This is a sermon entitled, "A Sermon Preached, November 29th, 1821, the day which completed 100 years since the organization of the Congregational Church in Rehoboth, Mass. By Pastor Otis Thompson, pastor of said church. It is a matter of thanksgiving to God this day that he has thus far furnished this Church of Christ with the means of edification and hath made such additions to it from time to time as to preserve it to this first centurial anniversary of its formation."
Tom and I have been members of this church for over 40 years and raised our children here. When Tom was head trustee in the late 80s, the ceiling in the sanctuary was being replaced and the stained glass windows repaired, including removing iron grates. Tom got a call from work one day from Bernice Estes, the church secretary. She calmly said, "The church is on fire." The workmen had covered the lights with cardboard over in the corner, but the lights were on and the cardboard caught on fire. The fire started to char the roof beams over that area. Luckily, thankfully, the workmen were able to put it out before the firemen did arrive, which was a great relief for everyone.
I'm going into my 82nd year here, as from Sunday school up till now. We used to meet up at Golf Hall for Sunday school because the church was not big enough anymore. We had Sunday school classes downstairs. When I started, when I was in the first grade, we were in the boiler room. Yes.
I'm so sorry. In March of 2020, it was clear that there was not enough PPEs for frontline workers. We immediately found a CDC-approved mask online and contacted Women's and Infants to offer sewing services. We had no idea how many we would be able to make and donate, but we knew that this church would come through immediately to help. In 1776, the church was the recipient of a large and valuable legacy on Pond Street from Lieutenant Ephraim Hunt. He donated hundreds of acres of land estimated to have been worth about $10,000 at that time. Hunt's purpose in leaving the property was for the support of the minister and provide a place for the minister to get firewood. Outdoor church services have been held yearly on that land for a long time. At one point, there was also a church family campout on Memorial Day weekend at that site for several years. Over the years, land was sold to assist the church in maintaining and adding onto the church building. A few years ago, the remaining land of 63.5 acres was sold to the Rehoboth Land Trust, which will keep the land in its natural state.
It's a joy to be a part of this church now, and to have my son's family also a part of this church. So a lot of my relatives are members of this church. And I see that it still has such a connection to the town. And one of the things that keeps the church alive is that we need always to have generation to generation. And so new people come, and the church continues on.
Many years ago, there was, during communion, they usually had the bread prepared, the evening before to pass out. And when we partook of the bread, there was this gigantic crunch because the Syrian bread had really hardened up over evening. And so everybody went crunch at the same time, and it was sort of a memorable event.
I like the fact that it's so easily accessible to all ages. Like, I've been coming here since I was an infant, and now I'm almost 25, and I've been through Sunday school, and I've taught Sunday school, and I've been through youth group, and I've been a youth group advisor.
And so 31 years later, we're still here. And we've raised our children in the church.
It has been a joy to watch my children and grandchildren active in our church.
I just think it's cool to see like kids growing up doing the things that I grew up doing.
No matter where you are on life's journey, there's something at our church for all of us.
RCC is such a huge family, and it's been such a big part of like my life.
So I'm just so grateful to have found this church, this home, this family.
I've grown up in it, and so I've seen it go through a lot of changes, and I'm sure I'll see it go through many more because I'm not going anywhere.
Audrey and I decided to do this together because we actually are forever friends.
As time went on and I became more involved after a year, I started attending Bible study class, and I gotta say, the girls in my Bible study class are like my sisters. I love them. We're all very close.
And we've gotten to know so many people, and they've become lifelong friends.
I found lots of love, lots of friends, family. It truly is a church family, and a wonderful family to belong to.
The people have just been so welcoming. Of course, I came with my husband. I lost my husband. And the reaching out of our church family has been extraordinary. The calls, the cards, the texts, the drop-offs on the porch. My heart is full, and RCC is very strong in my life. So thank you, God, and thank you, RCC.
I just want to say this church has been amazing to me.
It's been a great place. I believe now we've been members for 25 years. 25 since 1996.
Right.
So it's been a good 25 years.
There's so much respect, and that's what I love about Rehoboth Congregational Church. When they say everyone and anyone is welcome, they mean that. And I can't imagine my world without my RCC family.
This has been my church my entire life. I've watched many ministers come and go, but have never considered leaving regardless of circumstances. My church has taught me that to love and be loved is the greatest gift we have ever received.
So happy birthday, happy 300th birthday, RCC.
Yeah, happy birthday, RCC. 300 years. My goodness, that's absolutely remarkable.
It's been incredible to be able to celebrate the 300th anniversary, and I really am looking forward to seeing what the next generation has in store.
Thank you for helping us tell the story of the Rehoboth Congregational Church.
Give thanks to the Lord. Give praise to the God of creation. I will give thanks to the Lord. I will give thanks unto the rock of salvation. Thank you.